Hi everyone, I'm Yashvir, and welcome to our audio channel, The Bro Code. So, what's this channel about? The name suggests it's about your typical bro code, rules followed by guys, right? But this runs deeper than that. I guess we wanted to discuss how we have grown through life and how various situations have shaped us. By the means of the podcast on this channel, we hope to say something meaningful and impactful that perhaps you can use in yours. So please join us in this inspiring journey. We hope it helps you in some way. Hi everyone, and welcome to our first audio episode of the Bro Code. Today's topic of discussion is one we have touched on many times in the past, and it's called inches, a life concept. So I say we because I have someone in studio with me today, and the originator of the concept inches. So I'd like to wish a warm welcome to Prush and just ask you quickly, how are you?
Hi Yash, how are you doing? You doing well?
Fantastic, and yourself, Prush?
Having a good weekend? It's a Saturday today.
I certainly
Uh,
have had a great weekend
yeah.
so far.
So what's it? The third weekend in January now?
It's already 2021, can you believe it, man?
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a long, long road. Last year was. It literally feels like I'm on the same road. um. Okay. So background about me. My name is Prashant. Welcome everyone. I'm a simple guy from Durban, South Africa. Um. Born and raised in Durban. Grew up. Um, in the center of the CBD, which was quite a
Experience.
nice experience as a child.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you learn quite a lot about your life
Hmm.
growing up with such a close knit area, close knit family, things like that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, simple guy, nice guy. Hopefully everyone thinks so. Hopefully funny as well. Try to be as much as I can. But for me, I think uh, joining Yash on this is something that really intrigued me because I'm one of those people that enjoys talking about philosophical things, enjoys talking about life, enjoys talking about his experiences and the things that I've learned, and maybe things that we can share with other people. Um, I'm currently 33. It's been a pretty long road so far, and hopefully many more, especially with my friend Yash, that we've as he says, we've been friends for a very long time, and I'm very keen to discuss and maybe share with you guys a lot of stuff about myself and things that I've learned and things that I've learned with Yash on our lives, and maybe share stuff with you guys that you guys can use as well. I don't know if that's a good enough intro, but
No, that was perfect, Rich. I mean, it
mm,
really gave us a great understanding of who you are and where you came from, I guess.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
so, bringing back to the point that you initially made when you introduced us. Um,
Mm,
so, listeners, Prash and I were talking a while back, and he had this concept about life. This concept he called, or he termed it, inches. Now, Prash, could
mm,
you just kind of explain to the
okay,
listeners, what this concept is about? Just explain what you meant by it, and
sure.
how has
Yeah,
it kind of impacted you and changed your life so far?
yeah, definitely. So I think it started with the discussion between you and I, where we wanted to do a podcast on all the lessons and stuff that we've learned in our lives because you and I see a lot of stuff where we've discussed things with people and we've learned so much about. When I say so much, I mean we've learned what we have in our lifespan so far about the life that we lead, and we want to try and share the things, the hardships that we've been through, and the lessons that we've learned with other people. Right. But looking back on that, I think you and I were having a long discussion about how we should actually try and begin this or phrase this or do like a high level discussion and then actually break it down into things. And for me, the main thing was where do we start and how do we start? And I was thinking about it for a long time, and then I realized there's something about every person's life that when you do something and when you progress in life, you only progress step by step. Um, one thing at a time. You only learn one thing at a time. You do one thing at a time. You progress in one area of your life at a certain period of your time, at a certain period in time. So I think it's so important that when we looked at it from at an initial point of view, we said, listen, let us discuss and understand where we can start. And it just clicked in terms of what I'd been through in my life, that I've only ever learned anything through steady growth and progress. And the reason why I termed it inches was because when you do something and you move forward in your life, you do it in leaps and bounds, but to get to that stage of forward progression, there's a lot of, not to say grind and hustle, but there's a lot of things where you need to actually move forward inch by inch, centimeter by centimeter, millimeter by millimeter, because that is how every person grows. And you suffer hardships, fine. You suffer great times, which is also good. But at every point in your life, you only move forward slowly. And when you're moving forward, how do I want to say this? You move forward in in inches. And the way I saw that was because everything I've ever done, I've done in terms of slow progression, but it's not necessarily slow. It's when you learn something well, you learn it slowly and you learn it good enough. And I read a saying the other day that said, if you can't do it slowly, you can't do it quickly. And for me, that was one of the main things that it always sits in the back of my mind. If I can't do something slowly, I can never do it quickly. And for me, that's how inches feels to me, you know. Um, if I learn something by the inches, I'll know it in miles, you know. And
That's
yes, we're South
yeah.
African, so we study standard SI units instead of the
Yeah.
American
No, no, I
the
get you.
American units.
I get you.
But for me, it's colloquial terms, you know. When we learn something and you learn something well enough and you grow well enough, you grow slowly and you grow in portions and in parts.
Uh,
And that's why I think inches just sort of suited the concept. I don't know if that clarifies
yeah,
why,
that definitely
but
does clarify it. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
you mentioned some important concepts there, like
yeah,
one of the key challenges that people often have when kind of undertaking tasks or undertaking growth or taking on new challenges in life is that
yeah,
they expect to go from from here to the top of the mountain
yeah.
in a
Zero
short
to
space
100,
of
man.
time,
Yeah,
when in
yeah,
reality we know that's not the case. It like you're
yeah,
mentioning, it's slow progression,
yeah,
and it's continuous improvement and learning along the way,
yeah,
is what you get from that. So Prash,
definitely.
so at what point did you realize that you are on this inches journey? So when did you first realize this?
Oh, geez, okay. Okay, so it started when I was at campus. Um, so I think one of the questions that I wanted to discuss with you discuss with a lot of people for a long time, but I think you and I have discussed it at some length. It comes to more of when you started realizing that your mental side sort of came into consciousness, you know. For me, I was always one of those people that did whatever was expected of me and just lived my life based on all the steps that I needed to take. You know, went through school, went through high school, um, got into a university, started studying, what. And when I hit first year, second year, I think a lot of people that are very studious, and then you get into university and you actually start studying, and then you get into this thing where you start meeting new different people and you start actually having fun and you like start drinking and partying and all of that stuff. I think for me, life completely changed when I actually hit university, and I met new people, great people, amazing people. Some of the people that I mean, you and I met through university. And we met some of the most awesome people. We have some of the most amazing friends from school and university and stuff. And we started having such a great time. We actually stopped worrying about studying, and things got to a point where I think in second year, I failed pretty much every course at university purely because I was just not interested in studying. You know, um,
I can totally
it
relate,
was,
man.
and we just had such a great time that we forgot about studying. And then it came to like third year and fourth year, and I just it got to a point where if I didn't pass any of my courses going forward, I would have actually had to go and get a job and pay off my own university fees because we didn't have enough money to actually pay for it ourselves. I mean, my parents didn't. I mean, my dad worked hard and my mom worked hard, but university was just another thing that it was just too expensive for us to afford. So I was paying for my degree myself through student loans and stuff like that, which a lot of people do. I mean, it's not uncommon. But when I hit third year, I had a wake up call that basically said, listen, you can finish your degree or you can go as a matriculant and go work somewhere. And in our country, it's not as easy to just go start your own company and do your own thing, especially at that time, because the internet wasn't like the biggest thing in the world and nobody knew how to do like marketing and start their own online business and stuff like that. It was very difficult at that time. I mean, this was like 15, what, almost 11, 12 years ago.
Don't give away our age, please.
I told you at the beginning I'm 33.
Damn it.
But okay, so right at that point, I think there was a turning point where I was actually sitting outside with Dean, one of our other friends. You know Dean very well, and sitting outside one of the buildings at campus. This was like at 11 o'clock at night or something, and I was having a smoke, and Dean was sitting next to me because he drove in from somewhere else because he was coming to study with us in the civil lab. Um,
Yeah,
oh
Dean
yeah,
was off
yeah,
campus, right?
yeah,
He wasn't on our
yeah. Dean
campus, yeah.
actually moved back from England the year before that because Dean was actually staying in
Yeah.
England for 2 years. He was working in a restaurant, I think. He's had a very different life from most of us, but yeah. So he we sat together on that bench and we were just talking about life and shit like that. I mean, our normal discussion, and we ended up discussing how what our futures were going to look like. And at that point, I realized, you know what? If I don't grow out of the current position that I'm in, I'm never going to be able to do anything that I want to do or be anything that I want to be. And it was always, why don't you be the best that you can? Why don't you do what you want and enjoy your life? And because remember, when we started campus, we didn't have that mentality. And then we met all these people, we had a great time, and then we were like, oh shit, we can do whatever we want. And then I realized I can't do whatever I want until I actually start choosing things that I want to do, you know? Um,
Mm-hmm. I
and
get you.
and and that's when I realized, listen, my whole life has built up to this point, but I've never noticed it. I've like if you look back and you turn around and you look at how many um things you've been through and how many things you've done, and then I look at it now and I'm like, I never noticed it because it was always a small movement at a time. It was a small progression. It was a small growth. And you don't notice it because it's small, small things. It's like, you know, when you say you live with somebody and then 2 years later you look at them and they look like a different person, or if you eat this
Mm-hmm.
way and then you keep doing that and you don't notice it now, but 2 years down the line you become really fat, or you
I
get
mean, we never have a full view of the map, right?
exactly, right? And you don't,
Like from
yeah,
our viewpoint at this
that's
point, yeah.
exactly it. And when you don't notice that, it literally becomes one of those things where I'm now a completely different person because of all the things that I've done, but I didn't notice I was doing them. And that's when I realized everything is done in small, tiny growth movements, small increments. And it was literally in that night that I realized, listen, unless I actually choose, it's a lot of hope because you get this growth mentality or you get this growth ideal where you can choose which direction you want to grow yourself in, and you can choose how much effort and how much forward movement you're going to have in most aspects of your life. Not all, because sometimes there's always a blocker in in a way, but you need to learn how to move around them, right? People don't understand that you can choose the direction of your life. And there's so many discussions I've had with so many people, even in the last couple of weeks, where they're like, "No, man, I'm struggling with this, and I'm struggling," and I'm like, "Guy, just pick what you want to do, right? Do what you have to when you need to, but the rest of the time, pick what you want to do and just do it. Because if you don't, what are you doing with your life? Where are you going? What's the
Yep,
plan?
that's definitely
You
true.
know, you don't have to have a
I mean,
foolproof
like you
plan.
said, life is choice,
Yeah,
right?
you don't. Yeah,
Um, what you are not changing, you are choosing for yourself,
exactly,
in essence. Like
exactly.
if you're in a bad situation, you're choosing that because you're not making other decisions that could move you in a different
No,
direction.
exactly,
Is that what you're saying? So
exactly.
yeah, and I think you mentioned the catalyst for you so early on. By the way, that's excellent that you realized this. I guess in university level, that's like still probably in your teens,
For me, that's late,
just
Ruben.
breaking into
For
20
me, that's
twenties.
extremely late,
No,
right?
so I'll give you an example. So so your catalyst. I mean, so for most people, it's catastrophic
Yeah,
events that kind
yeah,
of shift them into different directions, right?
exactly.
So yours was quite early, because if I compare that to me, I can tell you right up now, like I was just going through life.
Yeah.
So typically, when how I describe my life now is I'm growing through it,
Mm,
but early on, I was just going through life.
mm,
I was just going through the
mm,
emotions. I was just going through what kind of society had their plan for me. I studied, got a job, whatever,
mm,
and just no further intentions. My mind in my mind. So I can tell you straight up now that my journey actually began 3 years ago. 2018, I guess, was the greatest. I think. I mean, it that year was a year of breakage, in terms, like, a lot of things broke for
yeah,
me,
I remember.
but that was for me. So, like, I started very late, so, like, which is why I'm saying, compared to me, uh, my journey started late. But just because you start off later or earlier, it can happen at any
Yeah,
time, which is what I'm trying to get
yeah,
at.
no, definitely.
There's no set time for it to happen. It's just when I don't know, the winds change in your
Mm,
life,
mm,
and that's when it's going to happen for you.
mm,
You can't rush these things. I guess there's no way to kind of rush them.
mm.
It's up to an individual anyway. Their experiences, their journeys is entirely personal.
Yes, of course.
Like us looking at other people, for example, and them um, not going on this path. I mean, it's just, it'll happen for them, just not yet. It's not their time for it to happen. So that brings me to something else as well, because comparing these timelines and these
Mm.
timescapes. um, so what, in your opinion, why is it that people kind of wait so long, or have these journeys early? What's your opinion to these time frames?
Okay. So, for me, it's as you say, it's literally an event that occurs in someone's life. So the thing for me is that most people don't realize, and I think now we're seeing it with the younger and younger people, that a lot of them do have a lot of options in front of them, but a lot of them don't understand what options even mean. And for me, that was something that I had to learn when we say catastrophic events come about in your life, right? Um, Not specifically catastrophic, but eye-opening events, sort of awakenings, right?
I mean, we're not given these tools early on, right? I
Oh,
mean, for
okay,
example,
yeah.
in school, we have this subject called life orientation, for
Oh, dear
example,
God.
that doesn't really prepare you for life.
Yeah. Um,
I mean, we haven't learned the tools
mm,
to use
mm.
when these situations arise, and no one kind of guides us that from a young age, I guess.
Okay. So this actually comes from our elders, right? The problem is set in by elders, but we can't blame them because this is not a life that they ever knew, right? The times they are changing is a sentence that literally stays true every day, right? And I think you and I can attest to that more than everybody else, right? In our circle, because we've gone through so many changes in our lives that it's like you see so many people that are still doing the same thing that they used to be doing, right? And you're like, okay, but is this what you wanted to do? And that's the question that I like to ask people um, often. Is this what you wanted to do? Because you and I have done those, we've never had, an, as you say, you were always one of those people that just went through the motions, right? Because you never had the
Yeah.
time to ask yourself, is this what I want to do? Is this what I feel like doing? Is this something that brings me the joy that I want, brings me the happiness that I want?
Yeah,
And
and that only happened until,
yeah,
that only happened for
yeah,
me till I was broken down to my basic building blocks,
yeah,
basically.
yeah.
When I was down to that very vulnerable state, and when I said, okay,
Mm,
cool, this is now not something that I want for myself, because I looked at
mm.
what have I achieved and gone through till that point, and it made me kind of shocked that this is all that I had done, this is all that my life
At
was.
that point, yeah,
And then that spurred on that change for me.
yeah. And so when you ask the question, what is these time frames or time ranges? For me, it's not a time. It's literally an event within your life. And I know some people that it's happened to so early on. They were like 12 or 13, and they knew that this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to be, and this is where I want to go, right? And when most of the time when we speak about these things, we're talking about career, right? Like they wanted to be a doctor, or they wanted to be a lawyer, or they wanted to be an accountant, or they wanted to be in finance, or whatever, right? But that's most of the time. One thing I've realized is that it's not it's not that. That's not the thing. Career isn't what you should be aiming for. What you should be aiming for is a vision of what you want your life to look like, and your career is one quarter or less than that of your life. And
I guess it's one
yeah,
pillar, right? It's
yeah,
one pillar
yeah. Let's call it a pillar, right?
of everything.
Let's call it a pillar, right? Um, and that's what I feel like a lot of people don't realize, that it's only a pillar, right? And I think because you and I live in Joburg, South Africa, right? It's one of the busiest cities in the country, right? It's literally one of the cities where it's like New York, it's like the New York of America. Everything happens in small confined spaces, and everything happens very quickly. And you want to grow, you have to
Hmm.
you. It's like kill or be killed, right? And
Yeah.
here it's so job based, but not many people in this day and age understand that if you want to grow yourself and you want to grow your life, your job is just a pillar. Understand that, yes, in most cases, it's a 9 to 5 that gives you the means that you need to do the rest of your life. But people don't live the rest of their life. And when I realized that, um, back in at campus, I realized that I don't want to live a life that I literally just am working towards something. You've been studying for 12 years and then you have to go work a job. I don't want to live that life. I want to live a life where I actually
Yeah.
enjoy my life. And for me, that is one of the
I mean, you live the life that you want to
yes,
choose.
exactly. And that's the reason why we started this discussion, because for me, people don't see that there's this huge gaping hole in their lives, right? That they're not trying to fill, because they're so busy trying to follow some other rule, some other person's rule for them that they need to become. And
I mean, it's society's plan,
yeah,
right? It's society's plan that, for example, you go to school, you go to university if you can, you get a job,
yeah,
you get married, you have 2.5 kids, a dog with a white picket
yeah,
fence. Wait till you're 65 years old,
and
retire,
then that.
and then wait to die. I mean, that's kind of been beaten into us since the beginning of time, that we're just these machines that okay,
Yeah,
here's your punching
yeah,
card. I'm gonna punch in my time
yeah,
now, punch in this time, punch in my time for death, whatever, and then carry on. I mean, that's all people have known. Um, but I think this last year, or I mean, like 2020. I mean, we're 2021 now. I
mm,
just can't believe saying
mm,
that. Every time I say 2020, it was last year, it's like such a shock because it
mm,
went so quickly.
mm,
So last year was like such a shift for people. I've seen people shift from being a person of I to a person of, you know, the greater collection of people
mm,
just caring more
mm,
and being more open,
mm,
being more
mm.
thoughtful, and things like that. Um, so that's promising, I guess, that we had that time to kind of
Yeah.
reflect amongst things.
One thing 2020 did was definitely open up people's eyes to the fact that they cannot, a lot of people cannot be alone. And that for me, I think, is one of probably the best things that happened in 2020. So many people
I mean, we
realize,
realized what family was again, right? We realized what family and relationships and the value of those
yeah,
were again,
but also,
where in the past we took those for granted.
no, no,
Because remember, we
sure,
are completely cut off from each other for a few
I
years.
agree fully. But the thing is that for me, it's not about whether you interact with people, it's can you live with yourself? That for me becomes such a big question. And 2020 raised that question. Can you live? And I feel sorry for the people that were staying alone. I think you were staying alone, Lynn was staying alone. And I felt very bad for those people because I stayed with my brother and I had someone to talk to every day, you know? Um, but all those people that lived alone, right, that couldn't, that didn't have any interaction, that were struggling on their own, it's so difficult for them because they never learned how to live by themselves and to be within their own selves. And for me, that was one of the quintessential points that I learned back at campus. for you to grow in inches, you need to understand yourself. You need to love yourself and you need to be able to take on anything that you don't like about yourself and work on it and grow yourself. And that is what I think inches means to us in terms of personal growth and personal self. If you can't learn how to be on your own and be yourself, right, you must endeavor to do so because how are you ever going to enjoy your life if you're literally living somebody else's ideal for it? You should spend the time with yourself,
Yeah.
learn and love yourself, and then having friends and family and all of that stuff. I mean, yes, it's you're supposed to have family, and your family is supposed to help you and
Hmm.
guide you and mold you, and it's the same with your friends. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you need to be you, and you need to learn how to be you. And I think if you learned something like that in 2020, I think 2020 was probably the best year of your life. Um, for me personally. And I think that's something so important that people completely, a lot of people, I don't know if they realized it or missed it, or I haven't had that many discussions with people because I'm still stuck at home, right? Lockdown level three. But,
I mean, we're still in lockdown, right? Yeah, so
right.
that's okay.
But I don't know if people have learned those things about themselves. And if they haven't, why? Who- Do you not want to, or do you not appreciate those things about yourself?
I mean,
You know?
it kind of brings us back to whether they were actually on that, whether the time is right for them
Yeah,
to begin
yeah,
with.
sure.
Remember, if the time is not right for them, they're just not going to perhaps realize that there's an internal personal journey that they need to go through for their self betterment. It's not going to happen for them. So if they didn't use, I mean, it's like I said, right? You can't force someone to change. You can't force
Yeah,
someone to do
sure,
something at a particular time.
sure.
It's if they really want to do it,
Mm,
and then they'll do it.
mm.
So that's kind of. But I mean, people had a lot of different achievements, I guess, during the year of 2020.
Yeah,
It's not just, I mean, we can't just say that personal growth was just the only thing that they needed to do, I guess,
no,
in
of course.
terms of their life. Yeah. So I think, so I have another question for
Hmm.
you. So looking back at this whole inches concept and your journey from that time to now, can you pick on something specific that you made a decision about, let's just say 5 or 10 years ago, that you have actually seen progress on or improvements on now? Because, like you said, um, it's a journey to get to a particular destination, but initially you don't have that clear picture. But what was that? Can you pick on one particular anything really that you can think of that has been a great movement forward for you?
Look, there's a few things actually. There's a few things that I had like, let's say we want to use the word as a goal or a target or an idea of something or an idea of where you wanted your life to be, right?
Hmm.
And I think I've progressed well enough in in terms of my life in the direction that I wanted in many areas of my life, uh, barring I think one, maybe two. But I'm still working and growing in those areas. But for me, there were quite a few things, and I think a lot of it is based around career. But for me, it was always doing, let's say, when I started work, the first thing I realized that I wanted to do was get to a point where I was one of the let's say influential people within my sphere,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
At work. And I I can't say that I'm one of the most or anything like that, but for me the main thing was I want to get into a position where I'm comfortable with the way my working life is so that I can progress the rest of my life. And that for me was such a big thing to get over. And I don't know if a lot of other people have this problem, but I have a feeling that it's something that a lot of other people need to understand because they spend a lot of their life working. And what I've done with my life is gotten it to a point where I can spend only so many hours a day doing the work that I need to do and then progress the rest of my life doing all the other things that I want to do. And um, you and I both have been working on personal projects and side projects and things like that. Um, recently for the last 2 years, I think. Um, I've been studying as well, but that for me was a target, and the only way I was going to get there was if I became a senior in my position, right? And it's uncommon that normally people get registered professionally in our field, um, between I think your field, but more my field. It's a necessity, and I think I was one of the youngest people in my or one of the people in my department to get it the fastest. Um, and the reason why I say that is because the question relates to something that I wanted to bring inches to, and I literally did it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did when I started work was I took on as much as I could, right? And I took on everything in my path, and I literally just did everything that I could to get as much knowledge as I could, to get myself registered and to get myself promoted and to get into a position in life where I feel I'm comfortable and I'm happy with how my progression is going. And I did that so early on that I'm now in a comfortable position compared to um, where I should have been if I just carried on going through the motions. That I can say Injaz really just changed my life. Um,
So little conscious decisions that you made along the way, for
yeah,
yourself, I guess
yeah,
both professionally and personally, I guess, led up to the point that you are now.
yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, I want to use that as an example because it's one of the things that I'm very proud about myself, that it's not common, but it's not something that's really big as an achievement in most people's eyes, because it's common to get it, but the way I did it was following a concept that actually no, I have a better one. Um, if we go back to the university time within my life, and actually the best thing that I ever did for myself was learn about something at the time I called an inner flame. Right, I came up with this concept while I was having a discussion with one of my friends outside
Mm-hmm.
the library. I know you remember the big library that we had at
Yes, we
campus.
did. Many things
Yeah,
happened there.
yeah, it was opposite the lecture. Yeah, so we went down for a cigarette break. I used to smoke back then quite a lot. um, and we were just talking about life and stuff, and because it was like between exams and whatever. And for me, we had this discussion, and I developed this concept in my mind that would literally be essentially the concept of a soul, right? But I called it like my inner flame. And the reason why I did that was because I knew that the only thing that I was and the only thing that I would ever be is that. The body part of myself and the mental side of myself are all tools, right? And the person that's inside is your soul and your inner flame, whatever it is. And that will only ever die out if you let it, right? And you are the only person that can control it. Nobody can affect it. Nothing can affect you. Um, and that for me, whether you have a God, whether you believe in God, whether you believe in just the universe, whether you believe in just nothing and you're an atheist, you have to understand that there's some part of yourself that only you control, right? No one can affect you in that area of your life. No one can harm you. No one can um, do any physical or verbal or emotional pain to that area, because that's you,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can choose at any given time whether you want anything outside of yourself to affect you, right? And that space within yourself is your own area, right? And your own life. And you choose where that joy or where the joy comes to that area of your life, right? When I say this, I don't know if the best concept to use it is a soul, right? For me, the only thing that can affect your soul is you. You choose how your soul is affected by anything, right? Yes, there are emotions and stuff, but at the end of the day, your emotions are just an affect or a sensory um, item that your soul actually feels, right? But your soul is your soul. And once I understood that concept about myself, it changed my whole life, because that whole concept of inches, what I started doing then was I literally would project what I wanted for myself on whether it was results, whether it was studies, whether it was health, whether it was food, whether it was whatever I wanted that day, I would project what I wanted and I would go and get it. And if I didn't naturally go and get it, it would come to me magically. I don't know how, but even if I knew I wanted a Coke during the day, right, I would get a Coke, right? It's as simple as that, but it's as complicated as me going from uh, the highest mark in my second year being 32% to that's exam included, to the lowest mark in the next year first semester being 85. um, Purely because if you know what it is that you want and yourself can target it and you can go for it, trust me, you can do it. And it's not to say that it's not going to be difficult. It's a reframing of who it is and what it is that you want, and habits and motivation and drive and feeling and time to yourself, but also choosing your own progression will always give you more drive than ever letting anybody else's choices for you grow yourself. And I think that's one of the main things that changed my life. And using inches was a concept like a roadmap to get what I wanted. Um, I think if that gives the best answer I could, um, I would use that as an example, I think.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. So I think you also touched on something that's obviously very important to, I guess, people who are just getting on this journey right now. You spoke to manifestation as one of your key
Oh yeah.
concepts of inner flame, where you would just visualize kind of what you wanted, and you take the steps to get
Mm,
there. And even if you didn't
mm,
really consciously take those actions, you subconsciously did them, and things
mm,
kind of just happened out of
mm, mm.
through pure manifestation. I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
Remember,
yeah.
this was back when we were younger, right?
Yes.
So I didn't have the full. Remember, I'd just come out of that whole doing whatever everybody else wanted to, and also living not monotonous, but mechanical life.
Yeah.
Just going through the motions, as you said earlier.
Yes.
When you start learning about these things, you don't necessarily notice that you have a soul. I mean, you are a soul and you have a body, right? You don't notice these things, right? I think someone famous said it. You aren't a body, but you have a soul. You don't have a soul. You don't have a body. You are the soul, and you have a body, right? Um, and for me, that was one of the things that I learned. But when you start off, and at that point, I started off, and when I call it that flame, essentially what I'm talking about is your soul,
Hmm.
right? And uh, now, obviously, I've learned a lot more about
I
that
mean,
and
you're
progressed
responsible,
my
for
life and
example,
understood
stoking that
spirituality.
flame and growing that flame, right?
Yes, exactly. But you label it what you want to label it. You call it what you want to call it. Whether you want to call it God's spirit within you, whether you want to call it um, your own personal flame, whether you just want to call it your mind, right? You call it whatever you want to call it, but understand that it's something within you that cannot be affected by anybody else.
Hmm.
And that for me was the key driver. The only thing that changes my direction in life is me. And the only thing that controls this little space within myself, if people can hit me, people can punch me, they can affect me emotionally, they can do whatever they want to me, but there is an outer shell of myself. What is inside me is me, and I get to choose who affects it and who doesn't affect it, who affects it, what happens to it, and anything that I want to do with this part of myself, I can do without question. Nobody can stop me. I will get to where I want to get to, and I'll do whatever I want to do. When I say that, I mean provided you do good things,
I mean, you
not
protect,
just
in
start
one
killing
sense,
people. Yeah,
you're protecting your own energy, you're protecting your space, you're protecting those you let
exactly,
enter into your circle,
exactly,
which is kind of
exactly. And the
important.
reason why I want to clarify, yeah, the reason I want to clarify that I think is important because not everybody just understands what a soul is and spirituality and religion, and these play a big part because they are drivers in mankind's um, day-to-day movement. But it's important to understand that whatever you want to call that part of yourself, it's fine as long as you understand that you are in control of it, nobody else. And that for me is the most important thing. Because remember, people coming out of this just like you did 3 years ago, you don't learn all of these things in a day. It takes years to learn these things.
And well, it's
about
continuous
yourself.
improvement as well.
You
It's
know?
not like you
Yeah,
know
yeah,
all by the end of it. I mean, I'm not going to say end because
yeah,
there's no
yeah,
in life. Every journey is limitless.
yeah,
There's no
yeah,
end to it. So you're consistently
mm,
learning, and then that's kind of what I think everyone needs to have.
exactly.
It's that consistency and discipline to know that life is not a race. It's more of a marathon. So you
Yeah,
have to go step by step and take it slow. And each bend is going to be different. Each meander or each uphill or downhill.
each inch.
Yeah, basically
Yeah,
each inch is going to be
yeah,
different. If we bring it
yeah,
back to that, each one is going to be different,
yeah.
and just gotta
Mm,
take it
mm,
as it comes.
mm. Yeah,
So I think any voyage really has a lot to do with your mind, during those times. Either it's
yeah.
difficult times, happy times, or wherever. So looking back now, or
Mm.
or currently even, what can you say was your mindset before you began this journey, and what is your mindset after?
My mindset, and I think this is one of the best questions I've heard in such a long time, because my mindset before was one of anxiety, it was one of fear, it was one of not knowing what I'm gonna do next week. Am I gonna make it? Am I gonna get there? What am I gonna do? How am I gonna be? You'd consistently ask yourself all these questions because you don't know what you're doing. You have no plan, right? And not to say that you don't have a plan from a future point of view. You can say, listen, I want to pass all my subjects and get a job and blah blah blah. It the it was always an open-ended thing. Is where am I gonna be mentally, physically, emotionally in 5 years' time? Um, and before that whole understanding, it's not like I woke up the next day and I was a different person. It's not that. It's self-growth, right? But um, before that, you don't know, right? It's you're literally living a life of mechanical thing, right? And if you're like me, right, I'm one of those people that is naturally um, um, pessimistic, right? I'm naturally a pessimist because I don't know how bad it's going to be tomorrow, and that's how I used to think. I don't know how bad it's going to be tomorrow, so let me prepare as much as I can. I don't know where I'm going to be. I don't know if I'm going to pass. I don't know, I don't know if these people are going to accept me. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But when you start learning these things about yourself, it doesn't turn to I don't know. It turns into I'm going to do the best that I can, and I'm going to be the best that I can every single day. And even if I'm shit today, right? I'm going to be better tomorrow. And the more you understand that about yourself and the more you appreciate those things about yourself, the less you will worry and be anxious, pessimistic, and fearful of what's going to happen tomorrow. And I think that question literally is probably one of the best ways to describe how it feels to understand or to want to learn more about what's inside of you and learn to love yourself. Because the more you learn to love yourself, grow yourself, work on the areas of your life and future areas of your life, um, I think is so important because it removes all the negativity from yourself. There's so many people out there that are negative because they don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. What you should be focusing on where you are now and how you can be the best person that you can be right now. And the only way you do that is by learning more about yourself and growing yourself. And I think that was the definite mental change from before and after. Before, I was so negative about myself. I was so pessimistic, so anxious all the time. And you get so many people like that. And anxiety is something that takes over people's lives completely. I see it every day. Um, but when you understand that it's always going to be okay, right? Because you are always trying and make sure that you do the best that you can. But as long as you're always doing the best that you can, you know what? There's not anything that anybody else can ever ask of you. And you have this mental shift from being pessimistic, anxious, fearful to comfortable, understanding, patient, um, joyous, happy, uh,
If I
free.
can throw one in there,
Yeah,
hopeful.
hope is big, man. Um, and not to have missed it, but um, I I think hope is a, a big player on its own, to be honest with you. And a lot of people at this time don't have hope because they're like, what am I going to do? Where am I going to get more money from? I can't do this. I can't do that. And that all comes from not knowing yourself. And yes, hope I think is probably one of the biggest ones that you mentioned. So thank you for that one. So that's that definite change in mindset. And I think I've seen that happen in you um, a while back. Uh, and I think I told you it was very good to see that you had that change. Um, and I think we were all, I think it was you, me, and Lynn standing by the car park there the one day. And I think that's where I saw that mental shift within you happen because you could see that before you were living mechanically, and now you're living this life of if I don't enjoy it today, I'm going to go do something else. And that for me just tells me so much about a person that's in control of their lives. You don't have to be rich, you don't have to be famous, you don't even have to be the best person in the world, right? But if you are in control of who you are and what you're doing and you love yourself and you're not hurting anybody else, man, that's probably one of the best places you could ever be in your life, honestly, for me.
Yeah, no,
And
I definitely agree. Honestly,
yeah,
I mean, I also don't like a lot of people don't live in their present. Like you're
hmm,
saying, people have this fear and anxiety of what's tomorrow going to hold for them,
yeah,
but they miss out on the things that are happening today
hmm,
purely because they're worrying about tomorrow.
exactly.
Um, so and kind of they also don't plan for their tomorrow, but it's not so much you have to plan for tomorrow. It's just
Yeah,
live in the moment, and try your best to appreciate what you have currently in your time. And
yeah,
another thing, why hope came to mind earlier. I have one of my most, I think probably the best poem to me, and I always quote it. It's called "Hope is the Thing with Feathers."
hmm,
And basically, the gist of that poem, or what it truly means, is that hope requires nothing from you except
yeah,
that you just keep it within you.
yeah.
Having that, it just doesn't require anything.
That's so
There's
true.
no energy involved. You just have to keep it within you, and just know that things are going to get better. So if anyone wants to listen, I mean, check that poem out. It's called "Hope is the Thing with Feathers," and honestly, it that has always changed my perception on hope, and how I kind of view things in some way.
It's so important what you're saying because uh, that whole thing of hope and growth is for me I think something that fuels that journey. And I think in every movie and every aspect of life, well, I mean, I saw something today that said um, people believe that going outside and playing in a lightning storm with an umbrella, they'll be like, listen, the odds of it actually striking me are one in like whatever, a million or 2 million or whatever. The odds are really like it's not common, but it's very low, right? And then at the same notion, that same person the next day will go and take a lotto ticket where the odds are even worse, and that epitomizes hope because they hope that they'll win the lotto, but they also know that they won't get struck by lightning, you know. That for me
Yes,
epitomizes
true.
hope. Someone that knows that the odds of them getting struck by lightning are lower than the odds of them actually winning the lotto, but they'll still take a lotto ticket. For me, that literally tells you that they have hope within them. They just need to direct their energies towards those things that they hope for.
I guess in the correct areas, like where you're saying.
Yeah,
So it's always where you direct your mind. That's where your energy flows, right?
yes,
That's where you actually head toward.
yeah,
Like, and I guess if you want to change any particular situation, if you want your journey to be better, you have to direct your mind to in that direction that you want. So
yes,
it's like what you mentioned earlier, manifestation. You have to view yourself in that particular situation and consistently view yourself in that situation, and you kind of manifest and you move yourself in that direction.
yes. Okay. So I think there's one thing that I think you and I should discuss about manifestation. Everyone follow like they've read the book. I've read the book, The Secret, right? And even when I first read it, I think what I want to say, even if it's just a 30-second thing, is understand that manifestation isn't something where it isn't something where you just believe in what you want and it's gonna come at your doorstep. That's not how it works, right? And if anybody believes that, good for them. It's a start. No.
Then everyone would be billionaires by now if they believed that, hey, I'm going to get money tomorrow. No, 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 no. I also don't believe that, by the way. I mean, my concept is it is a start,
Yes,
but you have to take conscious
exactly.
action
And I think
toward getting you
that
to that point.
even when I started, I believed that manifestation would get me what I wanted. And I believed it to the point where I would write down whatever I wanted, and within a year or a year and a half, it would materialize, right? But you don't realize that you're playing the inches game. You're just not seeing it, right? And that's why I wanted to bring attention inches instead of manifestation, because inches is the actual point of manifestation. Manifestation is something that you believe in and something that you want to happen. But inches is where manifestation occurs. It's like I don't know if anyone's ever seen the movie The Secret. That guy says, the one guy says, listen, it's like driving in the night with your headlights and you can only see like 200 meters ahead of you or whatever. Um, it's true. You can only see 200 meters ahead of you. But the difference is that in the inches game, you know what the target is. You just need to find out how many inches it's going to take you to get there. And that's what you need to do. And then you need to put your head down and go. And that I think is the most important thing that people need to learn about manifestation. You can't sit at home hoping that the take a lot delivery is going to come, right? If you don't actually order it, you know, you can't expect the love of your life to show up at your door if you sit at home meditating for it. That's not how it works, right? You actually have to go out there and go find the person, or go out there, get the money, go buy the thing that you want. But the only way you're gonna do that is by actually living the inches, picking a direction and going. Because so many people just talk and talk and talk and don't actually do it. Um, and I'm not the greatest person to say that because there's certain areas in my life that I still want to grow. There's certain areas in my life that I still want, right? But uh, I know that whatever I've done so far is by working for it, but also by believing that I can do it and not letting anybody tell me that I can't. And that I think is something that every person needs to have within them.
That's definitely true. I mean, it's this conscious action, this conscious motion towards what you want. You know, it's there's a saying by um, Anthony Robbins where he says, "Never leave sight of a goal without taking action toward it immediately." So yeah, you have to take that action, that conscious action towards something that you want. So now that you're here, right? So in this point in time, this present, um, I know it's difficult to predict because there's so many things that can happen tomorrow or whenever. It doesn't matter. But where do you see this journey leading to? Like, what do you see its culmination or its final culmination in? Okay, I'm not going to say final culmination, just to say culmination. What is its like point?
Okay, so for me, the more I work on myself, the more I learn about myself, the more I enjoy being me, the more I realize that I'm growing into a person that I actually just I love. There's a lot about my life that's difficult. Um, and there's a lot about everybody's life that's difficult. There's a lot of things that you don't like, i.e., your job may be crap, or the people sometimes that are around you are quite irritating, or you don't want to speak to this person, whatever it is. But when I'm trying to do something about my life, I have a positive thought and a positive movement. And if you can consistently live your life like that, you'll find, I think that it doesn't come to a culmination. It comes to a continuous rolling um, learning session, if I want to call it that. Your life is not a culmination of things. Your life is a growth of lessons and a growth of your soul. So for me, a culmination would mean an ending. And I don't want to see my life as an ending because I'm not one of those people that needs to leave behind something for everybody to remember, or um, leave behind something in terms of my name or my family, or I'm just not one of those people. I'm one of those people that every day that I can live and learn something new and enjoy the time that I'm in and the person that I'm being is so much more entertaining and enterprising and freeing than me having to live a singular continuous life that culminates into something. So to answer your question, I'm kind of not answering it, but for me, there is no culmination. I don't want, it's not that I'm saying that I don't want my life to end. I'm saying that I don't want what I'm doing to come to a close. Not that I don't like closing things, I like closure. It's just more of a thing where I like learning every day and I like learning something new every day, about myself, about the things around me, about the things that I enjoy, about what I think I could enjoy, and then learning about those things and then enjoying those things. So for me, it's literally, if it were to come to culmination, my answer would be, the culmination would be my life culminates when I can literally wake up every day knowing that I'm going to enjoy the day purely because I'm learning something new and I'm enjoying what I want to do every single day. And I think that is something that I would want my life to culminate into. Um, if that makes sense.
Okay. I mean, from no, it definitely does, right? Because as I mentioned before, life is unending. It's continuous. It's continuous progression. It's continuous growth. You don't stop, growing. It's not like a job where you start at 20, you finish at 65 years old. Your life is just continuously moving forward. Um, so yeah, no, it definitely doesn't culminate. I agree. It shouldn't culminate because culminate implies an end, but there is no end to your personal journey and your personal growth. At every stage of your life, it always demands something different of you, and you'll obviously have to, because you're going through that for the first time. I guess you're going to have to learn things
Who
again.
said it? That was it Mark Twain, or was it Aurelius that said, you only um, you have two lives. The first one is where you're living, and the second one is you realize that you have a life.
Yeah,
I
no,
think it's
I've
something like
definitely
that.
seen that as well.
Um,
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
not
provide the
sure, but
source to look at.
that quote, it's the second life that you realize that you actually only have one life that makes that second life
Yes.
so important. And when you realize that, for me, I think that word culmination is the correct word. I think the way in which we answer it is key to each person's own wanting for themselves. And everybody's wanting for themselves is different. I mean, you and I are complete opposites. And um, you like um, fancy things and extra things, and you like great. Uh, you have a you. It's not materialistic. It's
Yes,
it's
it's
personal choice.
yeah.
You like these things. You like having a specific type of watch and a specific type of glasses and a specific type of car, and like we have people. Lots of people are like that. There's no problem with it. If
Mhm.
you like something, go and get it, right? But for me, I'm not saying that I'm any better or I'm any worse. It's your life. That's the great thing. You get to choose what you want to do. And if your life culminates into something, it's what you must make it. You must choose. Personally, for me, I want to live a life where I am consistently enjoying who I am, consistently enjoy where I am, consistently enjoy doing what I do. Whether it's sweeping the street or whether it's building uh, what I do at work, or whether it's building a tree house or whatever it is, right? Building houses, building roads, saving people's lives, being a doctor, whatever it is that you want to do. It just must be something that you find passionate about your own soul to do, and then literally break it down into the smallest elements that you can or the smallest inches that you can, and literally work for it on a daily basis until you get to where you want to go. But don't only do that for your career, do it for every aspect of your life. That's why when I say my answer is, I want to enjoy being myself, doing what I do, no matter what it is, waking up every day and feeling what I want to feel, freedom, happiness, and and yes, you need a sense of work, but also time with family and friends is so important that people
And
don't
time with
recognize it.
self
But
and time with
having
self. Yeah.
time to yourself, yeah, time with self, those are the things for me that are most important. And if my life culminated in me having enjoyable portions for each, I could literally not be happier with my life, honestly, because those are the things that I want from my life. And people are different. I mean, some people don't mind working 16-hour days. Cool, no problem. They enjoy their job to that level. I have friends that do that. They literally love working. It's not a problem. Um, and they are great with themselves as well. They're comfortable. They know where they're going. They know what they're doing. They're amazing people. And you know them. But everybody is different.
So,
And that for me is you must decide what it is that you want and put that road down and run that road. And don't let anybody ever tell you otherwise.
I think it's you can only, I guess you can only realize that there's something that needs to change if, as we touched on earlier, just that concept of
Mm,
pillars, where work is
mm,
one pillar,
mm,
your emotional state may be
mm,
another, your
mm,
family, your
mm.
journey with yourself is also some
No,
other
exactly.
pillars. I mean, life is this balancing act, I guess. And if one thing is imbalanced, if you don't like something in your life, then that part of your life will be imbalanced. And and only you can
Yeah,
realize that that there's
yeah,
something wrong in your life, I guess. So, like for example, with people who love working, their life is balanced because they don't feel that they're lacking
yeah,
anything in
yeah,
other areas of
yeah,
their life. And like we say, like
yeah,
we both say, that's
yeah.
perfectly fine. However, if people do feel like there's an imbalance in their lives and they have the ability to change it at any point
Yeah,
they can, just by taking action and taking the steps to
yeah.
change it. And I guess a lot of people kind of don't realize that they have the power to do so. Maybe they feel powerless in
Mm,
those certain situations,
mm,
but I think based on our experiences, we know now that we have the power. Perhaps a person who hasn't gone through, I think, personal growth might not have that kind of success to fall back on. Like, I mean, success because, for example, we know we've gone
mm,
through stuff. So in the future, if anything
mm,
happens to us, we know we'll be able to
mm,
handle it. If a person kind of just is new to
mm,
this whole thing, they don't have that experience, so they don't have that confidence, they don't have that
mm,
energy or drive to know that they're going to
mm,
get through something.
mm. Definitely. There's also a time where I think you say that you've had this journey for like 3 years now, right? How many times have you looked back and realized that there's lessons that you've learned that you've also forgotten, even in the 3 years? You know?
Yes, sometimes I guess we kind of bound to repeat
Yeah,
ourselves until we
yeah,
learn it
yeah.
properly.
So the thing is that people also, when they start this journey, the best thing to do is actually look back at your life, right? I'm not saying reminisce, because that's a waste of time as well sometimes, because it can hurt negatively, but it can also be a strength. But for me, it's more of look back at your life and look at the things that you've done and you progressed. And try and learn from those lessons, because if you realize where the lesson is there, you'll also learn that you can use those tools going forward, because those become essentially stepping stones for you. I've done A, B, C, D. I just didn't realize it. And that for me is something that even you and me need to take into account. And that's why sometimes I look back on my life and I'm like, sure, I've come so far, but what were the things that you did along the way? And one of my absolute favorite quotes, and I think if I ever gave anybody a quote, I posted it on my LinkedIn profile the other day. It's literally one of the first things I've ever posted on my LinkedIn profile, because I realized if I want to change jobs and change my life and do certain things the way I want to do them, I kind of want to get out there as well. So I started posting stuff on
Hmm.
LinkedIn. But the the it's from a movie called A Good Year, but the quote is, "A man learns nothing from winning. However, losing can elicit great wisdom. The act of losing is a great teacher, and no and one can enjoy lessons she brings. The trick though is not to make a habit of it." So for me, that was literally one of my all-time favorite quotes. Um, you are gonna lose, and you're gonna lose a lot, right, in your life. But don't, yes, learn from it, but also don't make a habit of it. But understand that if you keep winning all the time, you're not really gonna learn anything. So if you're in a position where you keep winning all the time and you're happy with your life, great. But understand that losing can be a very strong teacher as well.
It builds character.
And I
It builds
think you
character,
and
doesn't
I,
it? It
yeah,
builds a
you and
backbone.
I
It
have had a
builds
lot of losses in our
a lot of
lives
things.
in the losses column, but not always of our own making as well.
No, no. Here's how I viewed it. I view it as failing fast, failing forward,
Sure,
because we
yeah,
are on this journey
sure.
forward, dude.
And I think that is something that Inches was a great teacher for me, because the more I lost, the more I realized that I learned more, and then I carried on forward even further. I don't know, not everybody bounces back, but I'm one of those people that naturally bounces back. When I fail, I just turn around and keep going.
Hmm.
And it's a thing that it's in you to do or in you not to do. But that for me is something where I think it's important that people must remember and take in
I
themselves.
mean, conventional loss for me, in any case, isn't a loss. Like you say, it's a
Yeah,
learning.
yeah.
It's an
I
opportunity to
either win or I
grow.
learn, right?
So I don't
Yeah,
view it as a loss.
yeah, yeah,
Yes, exactly. So that's how
yeah.
you phrase it. I mean, we have this really great positive
Mm,
mindset. Um, you know, I, when my positivity changed, I guess those few years back. I'll just give you an example. I think I was booking my car in for a car
mm,
service, right? And I called in, and the lady asked me how I was, and I said extra
mm.
ordinarily well, and she paused for a few seconds, and she was like, "That has been the most positive answer I have ever heard during my time here." Um, and she was so taken aback by it, and we had just a brief
Yeah,
conversation about, you know, how I got to that state and things like that. So I guess I also learned that my positivity was kind of
yeah.
infectious at that point, because I think I just made
But
her day, I guess, just by
positivity is infectious,
having that
man. It really
conversation
is.
with her.
Um,
Yeah.
you don't realize it, but even when you like, we have a lot of interaction, you and me. I mean, this is the first time we're doing this, right? But you and I consistently have interaction on a regular basis, even on a daily basis in most cases.
Hmm.
But you don't
Hmm.
understand that when you are a naturally positive person, the people that are speaking to you become calmer. They naturally become calmer. And the people that don't become calmer are the people that you need to understand are red flags in your life.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
that for me is such a great telltale sign, that if you are dealing with somebody that naturally has everybody around him that's calm and he's a positive person, you will literally you that person i- is got himself or herself in a mental tuning that's driven and well forwarded, and they have a good grounding, which is so important, I think. And being positive also calms you. It teaches you that you can be what you want to be and who you want to be, and go where you want to go, and do what you want to do. And it's probably one of the greatest changes that I've seen in you in such a long time. I think Bill Murray even said something similar. He says, I think the only reason I've had a career in life that I've had is that someone told me some secrets early on about living. You can do the very best. You can when you're very, very relaxed. No matter what it is or what job you're doing or the job is, the more relaxed you are, the better you are. that's the sort of that's sort of why I got into acting. I realized that I had more fun the better I did it, right? And I thought that it's a job that he thought that it was a job he could be proud of, and it's changed his life and it's made him better at what he does. And I think that stems from positivity. If you're positive and you're comfortable within your life, right, you'll automatically do things better. And I think you've noticed this more in your life now than you've ever noticed it before. When you have that positivity, you instill this calmness within yourself because you know that the road, whatever the road is going to come, right? And as you keep walking, the road will keep building in front of you. It's like you're that Builder Man from that Lego movie, right? And
That's very
as you
true.
keep going, right, um, no matter what craggle is in front of you, um, you'll
Yeah.
you'll make it. And that positivity, I think, that I've seen in you has probably been one of the biggest changes I've ever seen in anybody, um, ever, which it's very good to see that somebody can take that much control of their lives.
I mean, just to give the listeners just a brief overview of how I was in my mindset. My mindset was quite um, disorganized, I would say. It was very dispassionate. It was There's a lot of anger, mixed emotions, not focused at all over the place, wishy-washy. Just everything. I was a mixed bag. Let's just say.
Mm.
And until I just kind of streamlined it, and it's all flowing very nicely. Like my energy is very calm, as Prash says. It's a very open, honest, happy kind of energy. It's completely different. It's a stark change from where I was and to what I am now.
Yeah.
And that's all. And it's all been my journey, and a journey that continues. I've gotten the help that I needed to get from a lot of people. I've absorbed all of their views and take it into account and move myself personally forward. So that's just a brief just a brief background on I guess who I
Mm.
was and who I am now.
Mm.
And my journey forward is going to be even better because there's my positivity coming out again. It's just I know it's going to be better because I'm taking the actions to move it forward, and I'm doing so in a calm, open manner. So I'm happy in general.
Oh, that I think is awesome. I think how you said it was probably so important for people that you you picked up that you weren't on a track that you wanted to be, right? Remember, you don't have to undergo some heavy tragedy in your life to learn something about yourself and realize that you're not on a track that you want to be. You learned, I mean, you and I have had some unfortunate situations that probably opened our eyes. Mine wasn't the worst thing in the world because a lot of people fail and stuff like that. But for me, it was a big problem because I'd always passed and always done well. But um, it comes about when you realize you're not at a point in your life where you want to be. And I think the first thing that you did was actually seek help, right? And I'm not saying help from the point of everybody needs help or whatever it is, but you found that it worked for you. And getting help and getting advice and getting forward movement, I think is so important. Even if you don't have it, there's so many people that you can speak to in your life that have learned these things about themselves. And the way you did it was really good. I mean, you spent the time, you noticed deficiencies within yourself, you seeked assistance, you got the assistance that you needed. Not that getting assistance is bad or anything. I think it's very important. And I've done the same thing as well, and I've enjoyed it. I've loved it. But once you notice these things that you want to change, you don't necessarily have to go about changing them yourself tomorrow. You can get help. You can do them. It takes time to do these things for yourself, and it's amazing how far somebody can come so quickly. And I think it's very cool, very very cool.
I think it's also self motivation, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It's you wanting to get yourself out of a rut so badly
yeah,
that you are not going to detract from this path,
yeah,
because this is the path to your light, to your infinite light, I guess, and you will stay on this path no matter what. And that's what I believed, and that's what I still believe to this day. So when I sought help from, professionally, I may say it, I had therapists that I went to see, and still have conversations with even today. I received the tools that I needed to deal with, not only my emotions, my mental state, and things like that. So I gained those tools, but now me gaining those tools, I also have a responsibility now to see and share those tools with others, and help others who are in a particular rut, I would say, which is kind of
yeah,
where this podcast came from, or this channel is coming from,
yeah,
is that
yeah,
we've been through this. You can use us as your reference point. Just know that if we've gone through it, you can get through it as well. And we're going to give you
yeah,
the tools to help you, move from point A to B, and then from point B to C, because it's slow movement. Um, so yeah,
yeah,
that's that.
yeah. Um,
So,
yeah.
if anything, what can you suggest to anyone who's listening in terms of helping them with their own personal interest journey? I know that everyone's interest journey is different, but
Yeah.
what can you suggest as like the basic building blocks or the starting points that you can see would make their journey easier now that we've gone through it or you've gone through it and stuff like that?
Okay. So, for me, the first thing is, are you happy with where you are? Mm. Are you happy with who you are? But answer these questions really. Like, there's a lot of stuff I can tell you now I'm not happy with about myself, and I'm working on it, right? There's a lot of things that I do, even in my working life and stuff like that, that I'm not happy with, and I'm working on them. But I think it's so important to ask yourself these questions and really actually answer them. Are you happy with what you're doing right now? Are you happy with your job? Are you happy with your family life? Are you happy with your emotions? Are you happy with the way you are treated in your life? Right? Not only about how other people treat you, but how well you treat yourself, right? And it's so hard to answer some of these questions because sometimes people don't know how they should be treated. And that I think also is a problem. But do you feel happy with the way you are treated in your life? And if the answer to any of those is no, right? I'm not saying you have to start working at it tomorrow, right? You can even take some time to find out how you want to be treated, what you want to do, where you want to go, who you want to be, and then write them down, target them. Even if you don't know, try different things. It's so important that, you know, people just do one thing their whole life and then later on realize that it's a problem. Like 5 years down the line, like, why am I still doing this? What you should do is try 10 different things, right? And the one that you like the most, keep doing that until you don't like it anymore and then change it, right? Life is all about changing. Life is about moving. You're not a tree. Don't stand in one place. You can move, right? Um, and the first question and the first set of questions is those for me. Are you happy with who you are? Are you happy with where you're going? Are you happy with the way you are treated? Are you happy with where you work? Are you happy with whom you're with? Um, I'm not here to break people up or anything, but you these questions are serious. I mean, there's so many people in our lives that people just settle, and it's so shit. Um, don't do that to yourself. If you're not happy in an area of your life, decide what you want to do about it. Change it, really change it, because settling in any area of your life, for me, is probably one of the absolute worst things that you can do unless you are comfortable with it yourself. I'm not saying you have to change everything. You may be comfortable with settling, right? But the first and all those questions you should ask is, are you happy with every area of your life? And if you're not, the first thing you should do is write down what you want, right? And go for it. And when you get there, are you happy with that? If not, write down what you want next and go for that next. If you don't know, try different things until you get to something that you are happy with. That is something that everybody should do in every area of their life, right? And don't worry about whether you're failing. Don't worry about messing it up. Don't worry about what other people think of you. Don't worry about if you fail. You're supposed to fail, right? You're supposed to mess it up. Those are how you learn what you like and what you don't like. Trust me, some of the biggest mistakes I've ever made were literally the biggest godsends of my life, right?
The
And the
best
only
lessons of your
reason,
life.
yeah, it literally, yeah, the best lessons of my life were some of the biggest mistakes I've ever made. But the only reason I made them was because I realized that I was not comfortable where I was. And it's such a telling sign that if you're consistently agitated or anxious about what you're doing and where you are, right, then it's literally your soul, your mind, your body telling you that I am not happy here. I need to go to a more positive state. And to get to that positive state, you need to ask yourself why this is not working for you and what can work for you. And then you apply inches to your life. Basically, you look at where you want to go, and every day, even if it takes 5 minutes a day, you work 5 minutes into getting into what it is you want. If it means your career, you learn something that gets you into the career that you want, right? If it's your hobbies, you do 5 minutes of it a day. If it's finding a new person for yourself, get on a dating app. Okay, it's COVID now, so you can't go out, so maybe you'll have to wait. Instead of going to find somebody
Well,
new, right? Instead of going to find somebody new in your life, maybe find a different hobby for now, right? If you want to improve your health, trust me, I'm not the fittest person in the world, right? I am or was considered obese, etc., etc., right? But I'm working towards improving my health, and getting better at things. I mean, we played football, we've done all these things. I played 6 sports at high school. We played 3 sports at campus at university. I still play sports now. I mean, when okay, it's COVID now, but when we used to play sports and stuff. I'm not the fittest person in the world, but there's certain areas of my life that I'm growing as well. If you like cooking, don't buy stuff, cook it, make it. If you like reading, read the book, don't watch the movie. For me, those are things that people should actually read more. It's so important that people read more. I never used to be a big reader. Now I'm reading. It literally changes the way you see your day, because you're like, okay, when can I free up an hour to read something? It's insane how much you can change the way you do stuff and what you enjoy by deciding what it is that you want for yourself and not letting anybody else decide that for you. And you will only ever get there when you sit, even if it takes you 3 months to sit and think about what it is that you want to do. I wouldn't say sit for 3 months and think about it, but I'd say make a concerted effort into something new for yourself every day, even if it's for 5 minutes. And you'll see literally your life starts changing in a positive way. I think that's so important.
I honestly, you've mentioned quite a bit of information for anyone who actually is listening. But I certainly agree with every single one of them. Um,
Yeah.
there's so much that resonates with my experience from the past and my experiences currently. Note taking, notes to yourself,
Yeah.
spiritual energy, your body, your own physicality, just telling you, okay, it's not a situation that I want to be in. I need to change
Mm,
this. You
mm,
physically feel it. I was, in some instances, physically ill because of situations that I put myself in that I didn't really like, and since I started believing that I could change them, I did change them,
mm,
and now I'm just this vibrant ball of energy. So it's
mm.
it's it's certainly like what you said, making concerted efforts, making a decision to change, writing them down, consistently
Yeah.
trying them out, and
Yeah.
consistently failing. If you have to fail, that's
Yeah.
fine. Just move forward. Just keep moving
Yeah.
forward. It's not going
Even
to get better by
yeah.
just being stagnant. It's going to get
Yeah.
better by taking that consistent change and consistent movement forward.
Yeah. People see failure as this bad thing. I don't understand why.
I mean, they fail
Um.
once and then they stop.
Yeah. Why? I fail more. Fail often. So many people nowadays on social media are telling you, like Gary Vee is literally like fail hard, fail 100 times, doesn't matter, right?
Yes.
And I agree with him. Look, he's got a lot more wisdom than a lot more people, but for me, he's right. If you're gonna fail, it's fine, fail, right? Don't go and spend the whole house's all the money and all the magic beans, but it's fine to fail. It's fine to make mistakes, even if it's on the side. When you have free time, do it. Making a mistake means you tried something. Not making a mistake and not doing anything means you didn't do anything in your life. So it's up to you to choose whether you
And
want to
that's
do it.
not something you want to sit with, regret.
Yeah,
Regret that you
yeah,
didn't try.
yeah. That's
There's this
probably
thing
real
by
work.
Anthony Robbins, where he says in one of his talks, and he says, when you're at your deathbed and all the talents that God gave you manifest themselves and say to you, why didn't you even try to use us? You
Hmm.
don't want that at the end of your life.
Yeah,
That's not something you want. You wanna hit your potential. You wanna hit your max potential, your max growth in your lifetime, and
yeah,
not have wasted it.
for sure. I think that if anybody learns anything from what we're talking about, just take what it is that you want to do in your life, and if you don't know what it is, go and find it, right? And even if it takes you your whole life to find it, and you find it the day before you die, if you would have had a better life than 90% of the other people out there. I'll be honest with you, because you would have learned more and had more fun than anybody else anywhere.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
just honestly enjoy that journey.
yeah,
Don't
and
get
yeah,
don't get disheartened by failure. Just enjoy that journey. Enjoy that you're actually on a journey of self discovery and self what's the word that I'm looking for? Self
growth.
discovery even.
Yeah,
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 self growth. Enjoy that journey. I mean, we can always say it's novel ideas from us to say that you should enjoy it, but because we've been through it and we know how to deal with certain things right now. But
Mm.
you're going to gain that knowledge and how to actually appreciate your journey, even though there's going to be failing steps. You're going to falter. You're going to
Mm.
fall on your face. People are going to laugh at you. It's fine.
Who cares about those
We don't
people?
live our lives. We don't live our lives for other people. We live it for us.
Yeah.
So even if they do laugh, it's fine. We'll laugh with them.
Yeah, actually, that's one thing that I think you've learned how to do so well about yourself. When you make mistakes, even though you made a mistake, you laugh at yourself, which is, I think it's so important.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I
Yeah,
laugh at myself quite more often than usual now.
yeah,
But
but it's
that's
good.
that's all part and parcel of my growth anyway.
Yeah.
Taking things lightly and not punishing myself for
Mm.
failure. I think that's key as well. That you don't punish yourself when you fall down. You don't punish yourself to say, "Oh no, I'm too stupid because I failed this. I failed this test." No, that's not
Yeah,
it. I mean, you learned that maybe you in that area that's not your area. Maybe now you try something else, and maybe the other something will be your area. So
yeah.
it's never punish yourself for failure.
I agree. I think that that's probably a really good line. Never punish yourself for failure. Rather rejoice in your failures and also rejoice in your victories. And if you failed 100 times, so what? Who cares?
Yep. I mean, it's like there's that saying again, fall down 7 times, get up eight.
Yeah,
Just continuously get up.
yeah. I mean, there's so many people. There people even made songs about it. There's a reason
Yeah.
why. People will go around singing that song, right?
Hmm.
But not understand what it means.
But I think you touched on watching movies and stuff like that.
Yeah,
We see so many of these movies. For example, like on the Hallmark Channel, for example,
yeah,
we see all those feel good movies describing how
mm,
people go through journeys, but we just watch the movies. We don't absorb the
yeah,
actual content or the actual messages.
mm,
And now, when I actually look at movies, when I actually watch movies, I, 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 I absorb the actual meaning of the movie and the actual content. There's so many examples that are in front of us, but we just fail to see it because we're not actually looking for those things. We kind of
mm.
just looking for other things in that moment, and just something else. Success leaves clues.
But
Like
you know what that is?
everyone who's
You
yeah,
know what that is? That's
what?
presence.
Go ahead.
That's awareness.
Yes, yes,
So
awareness. Yes.
you only ever get that when you get to a point where. So there's so many people that have presence and awareness, but they just ignore it. I mean, if you go and ask somebody about a movie that you and I have watched and we learned from, and somebody else go and watch the same movie, and you ask them about it, they'll tell you, listen, he learned this about himself and he did
Well,
great, blah blah blah, blah, right?
they
But
get you the plot
they'll,
of the movie, right?
they'll give you the plot of the movie, right? And they'll even give you the subtext, right? But they will never, you won't see it resonating within them, right? Whereas when
That's
you
true.
and I watch a movie, right, you're watching the movie and then you're seeing the things that are happening and then you're understanding how it resonates with inside of you, right? And for me, that's you when you're present and you're aware, right? You're aware of the things that are happening around you. You're aware of how they happen inside of you, but also you're aware that this is how it occurred to me and this is where it placed in my life and my experiences and my um, um, the things that I've seen in the past. And when you have that level of presence and awareness and stuff like that, you start living that life all the time. You you be it's not I'm not saying you become a better person or you're automatically the best person or it's not saying that. I'm just saying you start to appreciate life more. And
Definitely. You know
that's
what I just thought of
so
now,
important.
when we're talking about these movies and stuff like that. Uh, it just clicked to me right now that when they asked us in school to do movie reviews and book reviews,
Yeah,
and when
yeah,
they asked us to pick up the themes and the style of the movies and the plot of the movie,
yeah.
that actually I'm actually thinking now that this is what they referred to, that we had to pick out a deeper meaning for it rather than just the plain old plot and the plain old themes of the movie that were just
Yeah.
on the surface. We had to look
Yeah.
a bit deeper.
Now that
I
now,
just thought
now
about
that
that
you
now.
mention it, now that you mention it, I think we missed the plot on that one big time.
Yes, because
You
that
know?
was the true meaning of what the education system was trying to teach us, but we just thought of it as a surface level.
Yeah. So we should actually look deeper into yeah, but you know what? Nobody ever explains to you that the deeper meaning is important. You know, like your English
No,
teacher was an artist. They didn't understand.
there's no
Yeah,
rule book in life. There's no guidebook in life.
yeah,
No one's written it, so it's not something anyone can actually just pick up off the shelf and here we
yeah,
go,
yeah,
on your way.
yeah. But that's what this is meant to be, right? Our discussion is
Hmm.
meant to be, okay, look, it's just a starting. So we are
Yeah.
explaining a lot about what we've experienced, right?
Yes.
But I think that this is like a start for something where we can use our experiences to actually maybe help people that don't have the understandings that we do. I'm not saying that we understand everything, right? It's not a thing where we're like, oh, we're all knowing and stuff like that. But whatever little experience that we have can help somebody else. And that's, I think, what we're aiming for. There's a lot of people that understand what we're saying. There's a lot of people that even know more than us, which is cool. And that's amazing, right? But there's also a lot of people that don't have these understandings in their life and live mechanical lives. And we want to help them at least have a more enjoyable life and a more life that they want to grow from and enjoy
A more
more.
fulfilled life, right?
Yes, yeah, it's so important that more people have that,
That's
especially
true,
now.
especially now.
Yeah,
That's true, especially now. No,
especially now.
that
It's so important.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
One more question, I guess. I think it's
Okay.
just about closing comments. No, I think it's just closing comments. So if you just want to have a quick think about what your closing comments are going to be, you can just, and then when you're ready, you can go.
Look, my closing comments are for anybody that is not happy with things in their life. Um, it's important that you try to understand what it is that you're not happy about. Remember, you can't. There's a lot of things that you can blame, but I've learned one thing is that there's no point in blaming somebody else. If there's something that you don't like, it's you that needs to change it, and it's you that needs to make the choices to fix that thing. Whatever it is, whether it be um, your the way you wake up in the morning, um, or the way someone treats you in your life. Um, I'm not saying necessarily if your spouse treats you badly, or if um, your brother or sister treats you badly, or if your teacher treats you badly, or if your boss treats you badly, right? Or if there's something that you don't like about your life, like I used to be really unhealthy. I think for the previous 6 months of like 6 months in last year, I was just eating whatever I wanted to, doing, and you get into a really bad state, right? And if you're not happy about something within your life, then look at yourself, decide what it is that you want to change. Don't waste time blaming somebody else. Don't waste time worrying about it because there's no need to. Just decide what you want to do, note it down, figure out, even if, as I said earlier, you don't know what you want to do, try different things, but go and do it. Just go and do it. Like Nike says, just do it. Seriously, it's true. Just go and do it. Pick what you want and rather spend the time learning something new and doing something different that you might enjoy instead of something that you don't enjoy. You will literally be better off for it every single time, in my opinion. Um, and I learn more from my mistakes than a lot of stuff that I do. And I think that's something that if I could impart to anybody, even just for today, that's something I'd like to use as a closing comment. But yeah, as I said, that's probably one of the most important things I think as a closing comment. Something that you don't enjoy, go go and find out what you want and make a note of it. And even if it's 5 minutes a day, try and change it. You'll find that it brings you more joy and progress than anything else in your life will. Um, and then start affecting the rest of your life too. It's one thing at a time, but go do it. Go and do, people. Go.
So that concludes our very first podcast. I would like to thank Prashant for being in studio with us today and for sharing his thoughts and ideas. To you listeners, thank you so much for listening in to our rambles at times, and we hope you gain some value that you can use in your life. So this is your bro code signing off. Have a powerful day. Until next time, cheers.